Most people think a comeback is about humiliation, about outsmarting someone in front of others, about being sharper, louder, or more brutal than the person who disrespected them. They believe that power lives in the perfect insult, the viral clapback, the moment that leaves the other person speechless. But if you look closely, that version of winning always costs you something: your peace, your clarity, your dignity, your composure. Every time you react in anger, you don't rise above the chaos, you step inside it. And the Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. Real strength is not measured by how hard you strike back, but by how steady you remain when the storm hits. Think about the last time someone tried to provoke you. Your heart raced, your jaw tightened, your mind went loud. That feeling isn't power, that's being controlled. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the best revenge is to be unlike the one who harmed you. That means mastering yourself before mastering any argument. In this video, I'm going to show you 5 simple phrases that make you sound wise, not angry. Phrases that protect your inner calm while dismantling disrespect without raising your voice. If this message speaks to you, consider subscribing as a quiet commitment to your own growth, a step toward building a steadier mind, a stronger character, and a life guided by stoic clarity rather than emotional impulse. 1. Are you okay? When someone insults you, it's like a sudden shock. Your emotions flare up, your heart races, and you feel the urge to retaliate. It's easy to want to fire back, to say something sharp that proves you're not going to stand for their disrespect. But here's the thing. Every time you react with anger or frustration, you're playing into their hands. You're giving them control over how you feel. What if, instead of reacting impulsively, you simply said, "Are you okay?" It's a deceptively simple phrase, but it carries incredible power. At first, it may seem like you're opening yourself up to more attacks, but in reality, you're shifting the entire power dynamic. Think about it. When someone insults you, they're often projecting their own emotions or insecurities. Their frustration, anger, or dissatisfaction with their own life is spilling over into your interaction. By asking, "Are you okay?" you immediately redirect the focus from you to them. It's like holding up a mirror, forcing them to confront their own emotional state. Instead of defending yourself, you're prompting them to reflect on why they're behaving the way they are. This forces them to pause and reconsider their actions, and suddenly, you're no longer the target. You've shifted the energy, and you've regained control. This phrase is especially powerful because it doesn't require you to engage in the same emotional reaction they're seeking from you. It's not about meeting their anger with your own. It's about maintaining your calm while offering them a chance to reflect. You're not saying, "You're wrong," or "You shouldn't feel that way." You're saying, "I see that something's going on with you, and I'm not going to be drawn into your chaos." Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." When you ask, "Are you okay?" you're not only offering them an opportunity to reflect, but you're also maintaining your own emotional sovereignty. You're showing that you don't need to react to their chaos to validate yourself. By shifting the focus, you also disarm the situation. People who are looking for a fight often expect an angry response, or at the very least, a defensive one. When you don't give them that, they're left unsure of how to proceed. In many cases, they will either calm down or walk away, unable to provoke you further. It's a subtle form of emotional power that doesn't require confrontation or aggression. Instead, it's a quiet strength that comes from being unaffected by the external noise around you. In fact, your calmness often speaks louder than any words you could say. There's also a sense of wisdom in the phrase, "Are you okay?" because it forces the other person to step outside their own emotional state. It's a gentle but firm way to disrupt their emotional cycle. They were expecting you to react with anger, to match their energy, but instead, you create a pause. This moment of silence can be powerful. It gives them a chance to think about what they've just said, and in many cases, it causes them to re-evaluate their words. They might even feel guilty for their behavior. The Stoic principle of apatheia, or the idea of remaining unruffled by external events, is key here. When you choose not to let their words disturb your peace, you're practicing apatheia. You're showing that you are in control of your own emotions, no matter what's happening around you. In a world where everyone is fighting to be heard, where everyone's trying to assert their dominance in conversations and arguments, asking, "Are you okay?" is a way to rise above it all. It's a reminder that you don't have to get involved in every conflict. You don't have to prove that you're right. You don't have to engage in the emotional drama others try to pull you into. Instead, you can be the calm in the storm, the one who remains unshaken by the noise around them. This phrase also serves as a reminder to ourselves. How often do we get caught up in our own emotions, reacting without thinking, letting our anger take over? By using, "Are you okay?" you not only break the cycle of conflict, but also create a space for self-reflection. It's a way to step outside your own emotional reactions and see the situation from a broader perspective. It's a tool for emotional intelligence, for understanding that other people's words and actions are often a reflection of their own struggles and not a personal attack on you. By using this phrase, you're taking a more thoughtful, strategic approach to conflict. Instead of meeting force with force, you're using empathy and self-control to disarm the situation. You're showing that you don't need to fight to be heard. You don't need to engage in their drama to maintain your dignity. And in doing so, you come out on top, not because you've defeated them, but because you've remained unshaken, unbothered, and in control of yourself. In the end, "Are you okay?" is more than just a question. It's a statement of strength. It's a powerful tool that not only shifts the energy of the conversation, but also demonstrates your emotional resilience. You're not allowing someone else's negativity to control how you feel. You're standing firm in your own peace, and that, in itself, is the most powerful response you can give. 2. I'm not sure I understand. We've all been there. Someone makes an attack, a sharp remark, or insults your character. The instinctive response? To fight back, to defend yourself, to prove that they're wrong and you're right. It's natural, and it's what we've been conditioned to do. The world tells us to stand up for ourselves, to never let anyone talk down to us. But here's the catch: reacting in anger or defensiveness rarely gets us the outcome we want. Instead, it often escalates things, making the situation even worse. But what if there was another way to handle these situations? A way that lets you take control without raising your voice or engaging in their emotional turmoil? Enter a phrase that may seem simple but is incredibly effective. I'm not sure I understand. This is a game changer. It sounds unassuming at first, almost passive, but it holds immense power. Instead of jumping to conclusions or fighting back with equal force, you're taking a step back. You're not immediately defending yourself or throwing insults back at them. You're giving the situation space, a moment to breathe. By saying, "I'm not sure I understand," you're signaling that you're not rushing into judgment. You're not dismissing their words, but you're asking for more information. It's like you're saying, "I'm listening, but I need you to explain yourself more clearly." This response has two immediate effects. It forces the other person to rethink their position, and it allows you to remain calm and in control. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't involve a confrontation. It's not a fight for dominance, but rather an invitation for clarity. You're asking them to present their argument in a way that makes sense, without the emotional baggage. It's an intellectual approach that forces them to rethink the validity of their attack. It also puts you in a position of strength, because instead of defending your honor or explaining yourself, you're placing the onus on them to justify their behavior. By doing this, you're not just surviving the conversation, you're leading it. You're controlling how the interaction plays out without ever raising your voice or stooping to their level. The Stoic philosophers understood this idea deeply. They knew that how we react to the world around us determines our peace of mind. Seneca, for instance, reminds us that we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. What Seneca means is that we often create our own suffering by overreacting or imagining that an insult or conflict is more damaging than it truly is. When you respond with, "I'm not sure I understand," you're resisting that tendency to spiral into defensive thoughts and emotions. You're pausing, and in that pause, you regain your balance. You step outside the emotional whirlwind that someone else is trying to drag you into, and you regain control of your own mental state. It's also important to note how this phrase keeps you in a position of strength. When you meet an insult with anger, you're not just defending yourself, you're getting emotionally involved in the other person's issues. You're allowing their negative energy to affect you. But when you say, "I'm not sure I understand," you're drawing a clear boundary. You're saying, "I'm not going to get swept up in your emotional storm. I'm not going to allow your words to dictate how I feel." It's a quiet form of power. You're not engaging in their drama. Instead, you're simply asking for a more coherent argument, one that's free of personal attacks and emotional charge. One of the hidden benefits of saying, "I'm not sure I understand," is that it invites the other person to examine their own words. It forces them to reconsider the tone or the nature of their comment. In many cases, they may even realize that they've overstepped or that their attack wasn't as well thought out as they initially believed. When this happens, they're left with two choices. They can either acknowledge that their words were unwarranted, or they can double down. But even if they choose the latter, they've already exposed their insecurity, and you remain above the fray. You've elevated the conversation to a level of respect and thoughtfulness that's difficult to undo. Let's take this back to the essence of it all: control. We often think of control as needing to change others, to force them to see things our way, or to make them apologize for their words. But the real power comes in controlling how we respond. We don't control other people's actions or words, but we always control how we react. And in that space, we can choose to maintain our composure, to ask questions that invite understanding rather than escalation. "I'm not sure I understand" is a tool of emotional control. It keeps you centered and calm, no matter what's being thrown at you. It shows that you don't need to defend your worth because you know your value, and you won't let someone else's negativity shift your emotional state. In the end, this phrase is a reminder that you don't need to engage in every conflict. You don't need to defend yourself in every situation. You can choose peace over being right, understanding over argument. And when you do that, you become untouchable. You become someone who stands above the chaos, someone whose peace is not for sale. The power isn't in the fight, it's in the ability to stay calm, stay centered, and stay in control of your own emotions. That's the real strength, and that's the true win. 3. You're allowed to think that. When someone insults you or disagrees with your point of view, there's a natural urge to defend yourself, to prove them wrong, or to retaliate. We've all been there. Someone throws a jab, and you feel the immediate heat rise. You want to strike back, make your case, and show them that their words don't define you. But what if I told you that there's a much more powerful, effective response that doesn't involve getting defensive? Something as simple as saying, "You're allowed to think that." Now, I know this might seem strange at first, almost like you're letting them off the hook. But trust me, this phrase holds more power than you think. Let's break it down. When someone disagrees with you or insults you, they're often hoping for one thing: a reaction. They want to see you get flustered, angry, or defensive. And the truth is, when you give them that reaction, you're playing right into their hands. They've successfully disrupted your emotional state, and now you're engaging in their drama. But by saying, "You're allowed to think that," you're taking all the power away from their words. You're not agreeing with them. but you're acknowledging that their opinion is theirs. You're telling them that their perspective doesn't have the power to change your own. You're standing firm in your own beliefs without needing them to validate or accept them. And in doing so, you've removed the emotional charge from the situation. Think about it. In a world where everyone is constantly trying to be heard, where it seems like every conversation is a battle to assert dominance or prove who's right, saying, "You're allowed to think that," sets you apart. It shows emotional maturity and control. Instead of rushing to defend yourself, instead of throwing more fuel onto the fire, you take the higher road. You show that you don't need to engage in the conflict. You don't need to fight for your opinion. You respect their right to have their view, but you also know that their opinion doesn't affect your sense of self. You've taken the emotional high ground, and in doing so, you've shown yourself to be untouchable. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." This quote speaks to the heart of this phrase. Your identity is not defined by the opinions or judgments of others. When you say, "You're allowed to think that," you're asserting that your worth and your identity are independent of their perspective. It doesn't matter what they think about you, because you know who you are. And by offering them the freedom to think as they wish, you're also offering yourself the freedom to remain emotionally unshaken, no matter what they say or do. This level of emotional sovereignty is powerful. It frees you from the need for constant validation and allows you to maintain your peace, even in the face of criticism. In many ways, this phrase helps us practice emotional detachment. It's not about being cold or indifferent to others' opinions, but rather about recognizing that those opinions don't define you. The Stoics believed in the importance of apatheia, or the absence of emotional disturbance. It wasn't about suppressing emotions. It was about choosing not to be controlled by them. When you allow others the freedom to hold their views, you're practicing this principle. You're letting go of the need to control how others think of you, and in doing so, you preserve your own inner peace. It's easy to get caught up in the need to be right, to feel like we need to justify ourselves whenever someone disagrees with us. But when you say, "You're allowed to think that," you're taking away the need for justification. You're not fighting for validation. You're simply allowing the other person to have their opinion while remaining rooted in your own truth. This shows a level of confidence and maturity that most people don't have. It's the kind of strength that doesn't need to be loud or aggressive. It's quiet, steady, and powerful. And in a world full of noise, this calmness can be one of your greatest strengths. This phrase also encourages us to be more compassionate and understanding. Instead of getting angry or frustrated with someone for their differing opinion, you acknowledge that they have the right to think as they do. It's a way of stepping out of the conflict and viewing the situation with empathy. You don't know what might be going on in their life that's causing them to act the way they do. They might be hurting, frustrated, or insecure, and their words are a reflection of that. By saying, "You're allowed to think that," you're showing them that you don't see their opinion as an attack on your character or worth. You understand that they're entitled to their perspective, even if it's different from yours. This kind of empathy allows you to rise above the situation without getting emotionally entangled in it. In a way, saying, "You're allowed to think that," is an act of grace. You're not trying to change anyone else's mind, and you're not letting their words have any influence on you. Instead, you're demonstrating that your peace is not contingent on anyone else's approval or agreement. It's a reminder that you are in control of your emotional responses, and no one else has the power to dictate how you feel. This is the essence of emotional freedom, letting go of the need to control others and simply allowing them to be as they are, while you remain steadfast in who you are. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, insult you, or challenge your beliefs, try this phrase: "You're allowed to think that." It's not a surrender or a defeat. It's a quiet declaration of your emotional strength and your ability to remain grounded no matter what. You're not agreeing with them, but you're acknowledging their right to have their perspective. And in doing so, you show the world that you are untouchable, unshaken by insults, unaffected by criticism, and unwavering in your own truth. 4. Did you mean to be that rude, or did it just come out wrong? When you're caught in a heated moment and someone throws an insult your way, the impulse is to strike back. It's a knee-jerk reaction, isn't it? You feel the sting of their words, your chest tightens, and all you want to do is defend yourself, to put them in their place. It's natural, but here's the thing. When you let anger guide your response, you lose. You're letting their words control your emotions, dictate your reactions, and ultimately shape your mood. But what if, instead of immediately retaliating, you paused, took a deep breath and asked, "Did you mean to be that rude, or did it just come out wrong?" Now, I know this might sound a bit strange or even counterintuitive, but trust me, this simple question is a game changer. When you ask this, you're not attacking them. You're not escalating the situation by getting defensive. Instead, you're flipping the script. You're putting them in a double bind. Think about it. If they admit that they were rude on purpose, they're going to look bad in front of everyone around them. They've just openly confessed to being intentionally disrespectful, and that's a tough pill to swallow. On the other hand, if they say it just came out wrong, now they're admitting they messed up, and they have to either apologize or adjust their tone. Either way, you've put them in a position where they can't easily escape without acknowledging that their behavior wasn't right. In both cases, you've called them out on their bad behavior, but you haven't lost your cool. You've stayed composed, thoughtful, and, most importantly, in control. Now, you might be thinking, why should I even give them a chance to explain? They were rude, and they should just own it. That's a valid thought, but here's the beauty of this approach. When you ask this question, you're not just calling them out. You're holding up a mirror. You're forcing them to look at their behavior, and by doing so, you're also showing yourself that you don't need to engage in every conflict. You're not trying to change their mind or get them to agree with you. Instead, you're simply highlighting that their behavior was not acceptable and giving them a chance to either own it or correct it. This puts you in a position of strength because you're not getting emotionally entangled in the situation. You're handling it with grace, intelligence, and control. In a way, this phrase helps you detach emotionally from the situation. When someone insults you, the natural reaction is to internalize it, to feel hurt, and then to react defensively. But when you ask, "Did you mean to be that rude?" you're distancing yourself from their attack. You're acknowledging that their words don't define you and that their rudeness doesn't need to affect your emotional state. Instead of absorbing their negativity, you're offering them a chance to reflect on their own words. You're holding the space for a more thoughtful, respectful conversation, even if they don't immediately realize it. This phrase is also a great way to maintain your dignity. The key here is that you're not lowering yourself to their level. You're not responding with aggression or hostility, which only perpetuates the conflict. Instead, you're elevating the conversation by calling attention to their rudeness while remaining composed. You're showing them that their behavior won't be tolerated, but you're doing it in a way that doesn't involve sinking into the emotional chaos of the situation. In essence, you're standing up for yourself without having to fight. That's true emotional strength. It also ties into the Stoic practice of emotional resilience. The Stoics believed that our emotions should not be controlled by external events. Instead, we should practice controlling our responses, choosing how we react to the world around us. When someone insults you, it's easy to feel anger or hurt. But by asking, "Did you mean to be that rude?" you're choosing to remain calm, to detach from the emotional reaction that their words are trying to provoke. You're asserting that you will not be moved by negativity, and in doing so, you protect your peace. As Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is the core of emotional resilience, choosing how to respond, not being swept away by the emotions of the moment. Finally, asking, "Did you mean to be that rude?" forces the other person to reconsider their behavior. It's a subtle but powerful way of letting them know that their rudeness won't go unnoticed, but also that you're not going to retaliate with the same level of hostility. You're not attacking them, but you're not letting their words slide either. Instead, you're offering them the chance to fix the situation, to either apologize or rethink their approach. And by doing this calmly, without emotion, you not only show them that their rudeness has no effect on you, but you also maintain your own dignity. You walk away from the situation stronger, more composed, and more in control of your own emotional state. In the end, this phrase isn't about winning or losing an argument. It's about preserving your own peace and dignity in the face of rudeness. It's about choosing to stay calm, stay centered, and stay in control. By asking, "Did you mean to be that rude?" you're showing that you won't be controlled by someone else's words. You're calling out their behavior without stooping to their level, and in doing so, you walk away unshaken and untouchable. 5. I'm not the audience for this. We've all experienced it. Someone trying to drag us into their drama, pulling us into a conversation we know will only end in frustration, confusion, or conflict. Whether it's an argument, a snide remark, or a passive-aggressive comment, they want a reaction. They want to see if they can get under your skin, throw you off balance, and get you to react emotionally. It's like a test. How will you respond? Will you let their words control you, or will you rise above it? Most of the time, the temptation is there, to react, to defend yourself, to show them you're not someone they can push around. But here's the secret, the ultimate mic drop phrase, the one that removes you from their emotional game entirely, is this: I'm not the audience for this. This phrase is a masterclass in emotional control and boundary setting. The moment someone tries to pull you into their chaos, they're looking for a reaction. They want you to engage, to get angry, to defend yourself, or to argue with them. They need you to be part of their emotional performance. But when you say, "I'm not the audience for this," you're telling them, without raising your voice, that you're not interested in their show. You're refusing to be part of their conflict. This is one of the most powerful things you can do. By walking away, not emotionally but physically from the situation, you take the power back. You are no longer subject to their emotional state, no longer at their mercy. By saying, "I'm not the audience for this," you create a boundary, one that they can't cross. You're telling them, "I see that you're trying to provoke me, but I'm not here for it. You can keep your drama, but I'm not engaging with it." This isn't about being passive or avoiding conflict. It's about choosing not to participate in unnecessary emotional turmoil. It's about protecting your own peace and not allowing anyone else's negativity to disturb it. Think about it. When someone tries to pull you into a fight, the power dynamic shifts if you refuse to engage. They want you to fight, but you don't. Instead, you remain calm, unaffected, and in control of your emotional state. By walking away, you send the message that you value your peace more than their drama. The beauty of this phrase lies in its simplicity. You don't need to explain yourself, defend your actions, or justify your behavior. The phrase is a complete sentence that stands on its own. It's a firm but respectful boundary that says, "This behavior is not something I will tolerate in my space." By using this phrase, you are calmly asserting that you will not engage with toxic or negative energy. It doesn't matter what they say or do. You've already made it clear that you won't participate in their emotional performance. This puts you in a position of emotional strength because you're not reacting to their negativity. Instead, you're choosing to walk away and preserve your peace. One of the key elements of saying "I'm not the audience for this" is that it also demonstrates emotional intelligence. You're not dismissing the other person's feelings. but you are recognizing that their behavior is not something you need to react to. You're not getting emotionally entangled in their drama. You're stepping outside of it, maintaining your emotional distance and preserving your peace. The ability to do this takes practice and self-awareness. It requires you to recognize that not every conflict needs to be engaged with, and sometimes the best response is simply to walk away. The more you use this phrase, the more natural it becomes. You begin to realize that you don't need to engage in every battle, that not every insult or disagreement is worth your time, and in doing so, you free yourself from the need for validation or the need to always be right. You no longer feel the pressure to defend yourself in every situation. You know your worth, and you know that it doesn't need to be proven in every conversation. The more you walk away from unnecessary drama, the more you reclaim your peace, your energy, and your mental space. You start to realize that the real strength is in your ability to remain calm, to stay centered, and to choose when and where to direct your energy. By refusing to engage in unnecessary drama, you also protect your own mental health. Conflict and negativity are draining, and engaging in them, especially when it's not productive, can leave you emotionally exhausted. But when you say, "I'm not the audience for this," you preserve your emotional energy. You're choosing to conserve your strength for situations that matter, for conversations that are constructive and valuable, rather than wasting it on things that won't help you grow. You're not letting someone else's emotional turmoil become your own. You're not letting them drag you into their mess. Instead, you're walking away unbothered, stronger, and with your emotional energy intact. In the end, "I'm not the audience for this" is more than just a phrase. It's a powerful boundary. It's a way to refuse to engage with negativity, to protect your peace, and to reclaim control over your emotions. When you say it, you're sending a clear message that you won't participate in their chaos, and in doing so, you remain unshaken, unbothered, and ultimately in control of your own life. It's the ultimate power move, and it leaves you walking away from the situation not as a victim, but as someone who has chosen to rise above it. Remember, true power isn't in reacting to every provocation or getting caught in someone else's drama. The strength lies in knowing when to walk away, to rise above, and to protect your peace. By choosing not to engage with negativity, you reclaim your energy, your dignity, and your emotional sovereignty. You become untouchable. Thank you for being a part of the Stoic Journal community. If you found this video valuable, make sure to check out one of the suggested videos on the screen now. Keep growing, stay calm, and continue mastering your inner peace.